in his State of the Union address last night, President Biden made his bid for 2024. He's already running before a sharply divided Congress. Republicans in the chamber voiced strong reactions to his campaign statements.
Well, the overall GOP response, the president's policies are damaging the nation. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka brings us this coverage of the president's speech.
Well, the president's big speech, a test run for 2024, pitching a message of progress and resilience amid Republican backlash and some uncertain economic headwinds.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
The first pitch.
We've been sent here to finish the job.
Faced with record high inflation, President Biden presented a rosy economic message of a strong job market and record low unemployment.
We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it.
In the president's first speech to a divided Congress,
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you.
But if there was a temporary truce among lawmakers last night, it quickly evaporated over the coming battle to lift the debt ceiling.
Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned.
And amid the economic uncertainty, a presidential accusation.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority.
Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene shouting liar in the chamber.
Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
Leading to a live primetime negotiation.
But it's being proposed by individuals.
And a unanimous agreement over the sanctity of entitlement programs.
As we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now.
Seemingly not open to negotiation, a ban on assault weapons.
Banned assault weapons now.
And the divisive issue of abortion.
If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
The president's calls for immigration reform.
And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again.
Met with Republicans calling for more. After a week in which the country watched the Chinese spy balloon drama play out, the president touted the U.S. response.
As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did.
For the ambassador of Ukraine, a standing ovation.
We're united in our support of your country. We're going to stand with you as long as it takes.
Among the guests sitting with the First Lady, Tyree Nichols' mother, who buried her son last week.
The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this.
Days after the release of police surveillance videos showing Nichols' brutal beating at the hands of police officers, the president called for police reform.
Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this.
The State of the Union address met with a Republican rebuttal from the governor of Arkansas.
It's time for a new generation of Republican leadership.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders slamming President Biden for being weak on China and not enforcing immigration laws amid a humanitarian crisis at the border.
The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy.
The president did focus on unity in some key areas, but Republicans wanted more. They wanted more on the border, they wanted more on national security, and more on a plan to try and fix the economy. The next big fight, the debt ceiling, with the U.S. Treasury Department saying the United States could default on its debts as soon as this summer. At the Capitol, Matt Galka, CBN News.
Well, CBN chief political analyst David Brody joins us now. And David, I've got to say, from political theater, it was pretty raucous last night. I remember when someone called out, a House of Representatives member called out to President Obama, you liar. He was censored by his own party. I don't think we're going to see that this time around. So why is it more contentious than in years past?
Well, that's right, Gordon. By the way, yeah, that's right. Joe Wilson, that congressman who said you lied to Barack Obama. We're living in a different age in politics right now. It is way more contentious. And you would think, well, wait a minute, could it get any more contentious than maybe Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich back in the 90s? The answer is a resounding yes. We saw it play out in the speakership battle with Kevin McCarthy, the populist wing of the crowd. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene screaming liar. We had another one in the crowd when Joe Biden talked about the border, or excuse me, talked about fentanyl, the fentanyl crisis, and a congressman yelling out, "It's your fault." And so it just got really, really bad. And obviously the big dust up last night, Gordon, was all about Social Security, Medicare. And let's be clear, there is no fact check needed on this. What Joe Biden said last night about Republicans saying that they wanted to cut Medicare and Social Security in this fight over the debt ceiling is an out and out bald-faced lie. And the reason for that is that Kevin McCarthy said the day before that was off the table. Those cuts were off the table. And yet Joe Biden walked to the lectern at the State of the Union in front of the nation and said Republicans want to cut Medicare and Social Security. That is why you saw the vociferous reaction. And this is the type of stuff we're dealing with in the politics of today.
Well, clearly he was campaigning. What's your take on he enjoys conversion? I can't make any sense out of what did he mean with that?
Well, I think can't make any sense of it and Joe Biden sadly go hand in hand in the same sentence quite often, Gordon. I think maybe what he meant with conversion is either one of two things. One, he was saying, I like the conversation rather than conversion. Or maybe he was talking about the conversion of the Republicans to see his way on it. I don't know, but that's a question for Joe Biden and Joe Biden alone, because at this point, we're not quite sure what comes out of his mouth at this point, and that reflects it. And don't take my word for it. 37% of Democrats don't want him to run again. 37%, Gordon, of Democrats don't want him to run for president again. That pretty much says all you need to know. I will say this. I thought he did a very good job at the beginning of the speech and about the first third of the speech talking about buy American, buy American. I mean, it was very economic populist. 42 times he invoked the word American, 17 times jobs in the speech, 6 times infrastructure, and the word manufacturing came up 5 times. So he was clearly trying to go for that blue collar vote that the Democrats have lost over the years. And that to me was very prevalent, at least at the beginning of the speech, Gordon.
Well, how do you rate it as a campaign speech? Because clearly he's kicking it off, and while he hasn't announced, it seems pretty obvious to everybody. So how do you rate this as a campaign speech?
Well, it's hard to say how I would rate it. I would simply say that he accomplished the goal. If the goal was to talk to the middle class of America, the Rust Belt of America, the heartland of America, the voters, in essence, that he's going to need, those independents and soft Democrats that went to Trump in 2016, and many of them still went to Trump in 2020. The electorate, the portion of the electorate that he's losing, well, then he did well. I would say, B+, if you will. The problem is he'll be fact-checked on that all day. Remember, he talks about buy American, buy American. Well, let me just say 2 words for you. Keystone Pipeline. I mean, he nixed that project, which would have been American jobs, and instead we're buying oil from overseas a lot more because of that nixing of the pipeline. So I can go on and on. I do think the contours of the race, Gordon, were defined more actually by Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the rebuttal, who said this is a choice between normal and crazy. And I think that, in essence, is what the contour of the race will be. Joe Biden will try to make it about economic populism and appeal to the Rust Belt and the heartland. Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying Republicans are going to appeal to common sense and say, really? The radical left wants to do all of this at your local school board and your PTA and the gender ideology and the critical race theory? It's normal versus crazy. Go with normal. And I think those are the contours of the 2024 presidential race.
Well, that normal and crazy goes on both sides of that aisle. I think one of the things he was trying to get done in the speech is exactly what happened. He was trying to trigger the Republicans to do exactly what they did, to get up and shout and point and sort of identify as we're the crazy. Is that going to be a theme? The radical MAGA Republicans, it just seems to be a catchphrase now. Is that going to be the theme for the next 2 years?
Well, Gordon, that's such an astute observation. You're absolutely right. I mean, he was able to draw out, if you will, the reactions from the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and other populists in the crowd by getting that vociferous reaction and letting Americans see, hey, this is an unruly Republican Party. This is a, air quote, crazy Republican Party that wants to kind of burn it all down. And I put that in air quotes, of course. And so, yeah, I think that was actually a pretty good political calculation by Biden. So we'll see. But I do think that has a lot to do with it for sure.
Well, one thing back to the Republican response and a call for a new generation of Republican leadership. You mentioned that Democrats don't want Biden to run. It seemed like I was hearing in the Republican response they want a new generation of leadership. At the same time, it seems obvious that it's going to be Biden-Trump again. So are we looking at divisions in both parties? And are we looking at a Trump-Biden redo? It's kind of like Ali Frazier all over again. Is that the destiny going forward?
It feels like it is. Obviously, a lot of political maneuvering going forward. Ron DeSantis will he or won't he get in? That will change the calculation quite often, quite a bit. Nikki Haley will get in next week. So we'll see about that. I will say that what Sarah Huckabee Sanders did, just like Joe Biden was talking about economic populism in the speech, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was brought on to do the rebuttal for one key reason. Just like the Democrats are losing middle-class, blue-collar, middle-class voters, that blue-collar Rust Belt voter, Republicans are having problems with women in the suburbs. And along comes Sarah Huckabee Sanders, a mother of three, and kind of an all-shucks feel to her, talking about just normalcy. And I think that's what the Republicans were trying to do on their side. And that's the juxtaposition that we're looking at. And it'll be interesting to watch. I can't wait. I bought popcorn already, Gordon. I bought it. That's all. I have a lot of it.
Well, I don't know if popcorn's the thing you want to be eating at what looks like to be a WWE match of heavyweight fighters.
Maybe Excedrin. Maybe Excedrin.
I don't know. Maybe we just leave the arena and let them fight it out and tell us who won at the end of the day. Well, David, thanks for joining us, and I look forward to 2 years of wonderful politics.
Can't wait.